Hello guys, it's Sapphire with the long overdue of the last two episodes of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. Episode 12 is titled To Catch a Thief, and the series finale is titled And They Live. This is episode 13. So in episode 12, To Catch a Thief, revealed in a flashback, the knave hunts Alice per Cora's directive and finds himself striking a deal to get his heart back. So this is how we pretty much did showing you how he met Alice, right? So Alice and Nate, and once they become friends with that, Alice and Nate's friendship is tested as he does Jafar's bidding, because he needs his staff back. Obviously, they're not gonna give him his staff back, you know. But he decides not to do it, because he knows. I mean, even though he loves Anastasia, he's not is not worth it, pretty much. Meanwhile, the Jabberwocky attempts to free herself from Jafar's control, and Jafar is confronted by his former partner, because now Amira has made herself known. Um, so these two about to face off. Jafar kills Cyrus. Amara's like, no, and then obviously she now does help Jafar to pretty much defy the laws of magic. And so in the season finale, everything comes to a nice little close. They cover up any tight ends that need to be talked about. So now, in episode 13, Jafar has, with Amar's help, broke the laws of magic, which are can't make nobody fall in love with you, you can't change the past, and you can't bring nobody back from dead. So he makes his father fall in love with you. I mean, yeah, falls in love with him. And so just his father's like, oh, Jafar, you're my son, you're my great son. And so then after he has him do that, what he really wanted to do is once he had his father, love him, he then kills his father so his father can know what it's like to have someone you love kill you. Sort of like how his father was pretty much was trying to kill him by drowning, which he does to him. So he kills his father, brings Anastasia back. So there's another one he laws of magic he broke. He can't make nobody fall in love with you. So Anastasia's thinking, she's all in love with him, that they're meant to be together, and which is torturing the will because he knows that Anastasia does not love him as a part of the spell. He then goes and imprisons the Jabberwocky, which I kind of felt bad for her because she pretty much was stuck there, stuck, and now she's stuck again. Even though I kind of wish we could have went into her history, or how she became the Jabberwocky, or was she born the Jabberwocky. And then, in order to find Alice, Amara, and Cyrus, he decides to raise an army of the dead. Meanwhile, Alice decides to raise their own army to fight, while Cyrus and Amara decided to go and bring back the water to the Well of Wonders. Alice gets caught, and Will tries to convince Anastasia to, help him out, and Anastasia's like, thinking, they're lying to her and everything like this. And so when she walks closer to Will, who's trapped by like some invisible barrier, he breaks through enough so he can kiss Anastasia, which breaks the curse upon her. True love's kiss breaks any curse. And she then helps free Alice, who then takes the White Rabbit to go and help Cyrus fight against Jafar. Right. So now we at the Well of Wonders. Before Amara could give the water that she took back to the Knicks in the well, Jafar kills her and she turns to water and she dies in the water, right? But then Alice pops up with with the rabbit hole. They getting ready to face off. And Jafar's like, I got the upper hand, blah, 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 talking about that smack. I'm like, oh my god, you're monologuing. Just kill them already. See, Jafar would have won this if he would not been monologuing. That's his downfall. And so what they do is they grab Cyrus cups a thing of water and Jafar takes it from him. And he's like, oh, you thought because the water when Amar turned into water, it didn't all the way fall into the Well of Wonders, so it was like on the concrete part of it, right, or the well. That's what Cyrus picked up. So when Jafar took it, it was like, oh, we're not gonna. So Alice and Cyrus like, we're not gonna destroy you. She is. And then Jafar just realized what he did. He took the water from the well, and we already know what happens when you take the water from the Knicks. So she pops up out the water, saying the water's not yours to take, and saying you love having your desires fulfilled, so you're gonna spend your life having obeying everybody else, fulfilling their desires. So then we see him get the genie cuffs on. I'm like, oh my god, this is just like the movie. Except for the whole snake and him becoming a red genie. So he becomes a genie and gets sent somewhere. So I'm like, oh my god, they had it end just like the Disney movie. Oh my god, I love it. And then they finally defeat Jafar, and since Jafar is now defeated, every spell he has cast, everything will return back to normal. So all the zombie army, they go back to being dead, and so does Anastasia. So Will, of course, is sad again, and then Alice and Cyrus come with the water from the well. And he's like, "No, we can't risk it. It's too risky." And Anastasia tells her that the Nick said that it wasn't Anastasia's time to die. The time of the Red Queen is over. That's who need to die. The Red Queen, who Anastasia was, the Red Queen. But it's time for Anastasia herself to live. And so Anastasia brings back to life. She and Will rejoice, like, yes, we're back together. I love you, and I love you too, and all this. And so then everybody goes to England for Cyrus's and Alice's wedding. So everybody's there. Her father, her mom, her stepmom, even though she's still trying to trip out the fact that behind her is like two talking rabbits, which I'd probably be tripped out too. Like, there are two rabbits behind me and they can talk. Okay, interesting. So Cyrus and Alice are now married. Anastasia and Will are now gonna run Wonderland. Who else? Oh yeah. Oh, Cyrus's brothers. They're not free. They're gonna live life. We don't know. We don't know exactly where they're going. And Tweedledee goes back to, of course, to Wonderland. So then we do a fast forward years later. Alice is telling all her adventures she wrote in the book, and we see on her lap is her little girl. She had a daughter, and so she asked her daughter what should she name the book. And so the daughter suggests Alice Adventures in Wonderland, which is actually the title of what Alice this show is based off. Alice Adventures in Wonderland. And so we then see Cyrus coming with some tea, so they're out in the park, they're having tea, and then we see from a distance the White Rabbit watching Alice and Cyrus and their daughter have tea, and that's how they end. So I thought it was pretty good, nice the way they wrapped it up. We got to see Jafar get turned into a genie just like in the movie. Besides the whole him turning into a cobra and then being a red genie, and so you know total cosmic power. Space. All right. Cyrus and Alice gets married, so that's good. So technically, if they I read somewhere that it said will the neighbor hearts will they probably gonna see if they could write his character in somewhere, probably in future seasons or Once Upon a Time, which is good. Which I think is good because we really don't need to see Alice and Cyrus anymore because their story is pretty much done. There's no more you can add to their story. Their story is done and over with. Will, we could definitely see more with him. Anastasia, they could probably tie her in to Cinderella because because all the characters they have their Disney names. So we all know if you watch the original Disney version of Cinderella, Cinderella has two stepsisters. One is Anastasia, and the other thing is Drusilla. So if they make Anastasia her sister, that would be kind of cool because we do know before Anastasia went with Will through the looking glass that her mother said did mention that Anastasia had other sisters. So the other sisters could probably be Drusilla and Cinderella. Cinderella. So that'd be a great way to tie her character in, so we could see a little bit more about her. Because that's technically all we know about her life is she left her mom, went with Will through the looking glass, married the Red Queen, and then became the Red Queen, and learned a little something from Cora, and we got the whole season for her. As for Jafar, we pretty much got his whole story. We got his childhood. We got how he learned magic. We got him being, as far as that we know, and then now he's a genie. So obviously his character might come back because he's officially a genie now. So a genie might somehow pop up into Wonderland, Once Upon a Time storybook somewhere. Might happen. Or his Or what they might do, because we haven't seen this character yet, what they might, what the Knicks might have done was probably send his bottle to Agrabah, and maybe a certain street rat might end up finding this said genie. So that will probably put a twist to the Latin version that we know. If you grew up in the 90s, watch, the Latin. You see, which other characters they need? Let's see. Oh, the Jabberwocky. They could somehow, I'm not sure how they're going to somehow bring Jabberwocky into this. Unless she is actually not from Wonderland, but from a different world, which would kind of be interesting. Or she somehow knows the Mad Hatter, because we all know the Mad Hatter is somewhere in Storybrooke. And we haven't seen him lately. So if they do bring in a Jabberwocky and William and Anastasia, they could probably connect it through him, because he is a character of Wonderland. He's a character in Wonderland. So that's how I think they should probably do it, because usually once upon a time, once they introduce one character from a certain story, they usually bring in the other characters. Like when we first, like, the show started off, we had all the characters that we know of for the Snow White story. We had Snow White, we had Prince Charming, we had her dwarves, and of course we had the Evil Queen. That's who we had. That's all we had. Pretty much the majority of characters from that storyline. And then when they introduced August, who we found as Pinocchio, then we got to see Geppetto. We also got to see Jiminy Cricket. We saw Jiminy Cricket first before we got to Geppetto. And then we also had what other story characters they had in there? We saw Hansel Gretel. We saw the witch for a little minute, and then we saw them, but we really kind of know what happened. We just know they was back with their dad. When we got into Rumpelstiltskin, who happens to be too many freaking characters. He's not only Rumpelstiltskin from his own story, The Miller's Daughter, but he is also the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. So that's how we end up beating Belle, Chip, and Gaston, who got turned into the Rose, and we also got to meet Belle's father. And from there, later in this season, we got to meet Lumiere, and then they introduced Hook, and from Hook, we got to end up being introduced to Tinkerbell. From Tinkerbell, we got into Peter Pan and Neverland. So it's kind of like, once they introduce one character, it's kind of like it's like they kind of set you up with one character, so you be like, oh snap, what other character going to show from this, from this particular story? So that's kind of how to set off. So that's why when I saw the Mad Hatter, we also got to see Cora, who ended up being the Queen of Hearts. So that's two characters from Wonderland. But you're like, okay, there's the other characters in Wonderland, so how are we going to meet them? So that's why we end up getting a spin-off, Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, where we get Alice, we got the Red Queen, we got Tweedle, we got the Cheshire Cat, we got the Rabbit, you name Heart. So you kind of like, once they introduce like one character, kind of like they have to introduce the other character of the storyline. For example, Ariel, we got to meet Ariel. We got to meet Prince Eric. We technically really didn't get to meet Ursula because Regina was posing as Ursula, but it was kind of cool to see her, playing as Ursula. But we did get a small glimpse of Ursula for a minute when she threatened Regina, like, if you pose as me again, it's gonna pretty much be hell to pay. And Regina was like, okay, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So overall, I liked it. The spinoff Once Upon a Time on it. You got some people didn't like it. Personally, I loved it. I mean, because you kind of don't want to fit too many stories into one show. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to have it so cluttered. You know what I mean? You don't want it to be too cluttered. So I think it was good they kind of had that spinoff, and from the spinoff we could probably get introduced more characters because we have Jafar. But we haven't met Aladdin. We haven't met Jasmine. So there's also, since you already introduced Jafar, it's kind of like you gotta introduce Jasmine and Aladdin. It's like, we need a sexy street rat and the princess. Come on now. Come on. We have Prince Eric. Come on. And hopefully we also get to see other princesses of the official Disney line, because we got Snow White, we got Cinderella, we got Sleeping Beauty, Mulan. We got to meet Rapunzel, so hopefully her character probably will pop up again. Who else was it? Ariel and Belle. So hopefully somewhere in some future seasons we'll get to meet Anna and Elsa. Even though I don't know how they're gonna try to fit that in there, unless there's a part of Storybrooke where it's completely covered in ice, like an icy area, watery area, because Elsa is the Snow Queen, so it makes sense. Tiana. Now, as for Tiana, I don't know how they would do that, because Tiana, her setting is in New Orleans, the 1920s of New Orleans. And all the other characters, they're coming from, like, places in Storybrooke, unless they tweak her character a bit where she doesn't be from New Orleans, but then it'll kind of ruin her whole accent thing. Yeah. Oh, but they could probably have it where Prince Naveen is looking for a princess because he's technically from a fictional kingdom called Maldonia. So maybe Maldonia could be somewhere located in the Enchanted Forest where Snow White and them are from. And somehow when he comes to Storybrooke, Tiana could probably, come from New Orleans and move to Storybrooke, and that's how Prince Naveen finds her. Some stuff like that. Pocahontas, I don't know if they're gonna try to add her in there because technically she is a real person. Well, Mulan was a legend, so I don't know if they can add Pocahontas in there. There's also Merida. She's from Scotland. I don't know how they're gonna do that. But overall, I can't wait to see what other characters they have within the Once Upon a Time universe. Overall, again, even though I kind of strayed off from topic, this is Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, episodes 12 and 13. I'm going to call it altogether the season finale recap review. Comment, rate, subscribe. Tell me what you loved about the season. Who is your favorite character of the season? Who is your favorite villain? What you think could have been improved in the show overall, like, in terms of plot and whatnot? Personally, my favorite character was Jafar. Who doesn't love a guy who just wants his father's affection? There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, again, Sapphire Yasmin, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.